Welcome back to Dan's Messy Garage. This is day 9 of putting a 302 and a C4 into a 73 Comet. I got the car here today, and I already started on one of the big problems with going from a 6-cylinder to an 8-cylinder, and that's having the correct mounts. Luckily and thankfully, the owner had those mounts. I took out the 6-cylinder mounts that were in there, these big honking things, and put in the V8 mounts. I have the other part of the engine mount already bolted to the engine, both sides of it. And one of the issues I see is the shift linkage. The column shifter has a bell crank and rod assembly that went to the 6-cylinder block right there. That's no longer used on the V8. There's going to be something totally different that runs from the arm sticking out of the column shift down to the transmission. I'll have to figure that out when I get the engine up in the car. The C4 trans was rebuilt a few years ago, but it sat a long time without a dipstick tube in there. I'm going to take the pan off and look in, make sure that there's no mouse nest or anything inside there. Gotta get it off this jack first. Here we go. Will there be a mouse nest? No. But there is debris in here. That would mess up the valve body if that made it through the filter, or if some of this got splashed up inside the internals of the trans. So I'm going to clean this out real good and put it back together. There we go. Shiny clean. Let's see, the valve body is a 1972. Calibration is 8LB, like boy. You guys can look that up if you want, figure out what it came out of. Looks good. Extra capacity is probably a good quart. That's a good thing. Get all the bolts back in, snug them up. Then I can mate the transmission and the engine. I'm going to take off my old bell housing here that was just used for testing purposes. Before I put the trans on the engine, I got to put some fluid in the torque converter. This should pull right off of here. looks empty. I don't see anything at all in there. Let's dump a cord in there. Just type F fluid. It takes probably 8 or 9 quarts total with this deeper pan, and I've only got 5 on hand. I'll have to order some up. 5 will be enough to get the thing started, because you put 1 or 2 in here. After it's in the car, you dump some more down into the dipstick, start it up, and then you can add more fluid once it's running. And I should put some fluid on the outside of the converter here. Take my finger, wipe that, put a little crank where it's going in, put some on these threads or splines. That seal in there. Again, the converter goes on. Should be 3 clicks or clunks to get it all the way seated. 1, 2, 3. Because you want these studs to be about an inch back from the face of the trans. This drain plug has to line up with a hole in the flex plate right about there. Slide this over. I gotta get the torque converter holes lined up, and that drain plug hole. I need a flashlight. Put a little fluid on the snout of the trans where it goes into the crank too. Just so it's not going in there dry. That doesn't spin. It just sets in the crank and it gets positioned. Looks like one slid on. Let me just hold that with a bolt there while I get this other pin going here. Also have to make sure that the converter studs are going to come through the flex plate. Trans is bolted up, starter is in. I had an issue with this dipstick tube blocking the access to this exhaust. Bent that out of the way. I got a trans cooler line kit. It's made for C4 in a 73 Comet. I can make it work. The issue is here. This line is made to go into a 90-degree fitting on a trans, which I don't have. So I'm going to have to bend this maybe either 90 degree over toward the trans, or it's easiest just to cut these, probably both of them, and then put a piece of rubber in here to alleviate trying to bend and make things fit. I'm going to set these lines aside, and I'll fight with that later. What I want to do first is get the engine and trans up in the air and see what other issues I'm going to have besides the throttle and the shift lever linkage. Got the engine hanging there, but you can see the car's got to go over for it to be lined up. You got to open the garage door, push the car back, move it over, get things lined up. I got the engine in far enough to see what I'm going to have an issue for sure with the shift linkage, and maybe the trans mount. Not sure about that yet, but I'm going to have to pull it partially back out and undo a lot of that linkage and look into the transmission cross member also. That was a real struggle. That linkage was a pain to get to. Bolts go vertically and they're underneath the steering box. You can't see them. You got to fish around blind in there, but I got it out. I got to raise the back of the trans now. I got to pull the car forward and you guys are in the way. All right, it's break time. It's resting on something in there and I really can't see what it is. But I'm going to get something to eat. Come back in about an hour and look at this. Okay, lunch is over. I had to move the power steering lines out of the way. Looking like it's going to go down now. This side looks okay. Driver's side actually looks okay too. Okay, it's down on the mounts. Of course, I don't have the long bolts to go through the mounts. I have to crawl under the car and see if the trans mount's going to work. There's not going to be room for you and I under there, so I'll report back on that in a minute. Whew! I got it set down on the motor mounts. I found some long bolts to go through the motor mounts. It's on the trans mount. I got the bolts through the trans mount, nuts on the trans mount, so it fits. I still got a lot of issues to work through. Power steering lines, gas line. Of course, they're right in the wrong spot. And let's see what else. A lot else. But it's down, it's in there. Now that it's setting on the mounts, I can take the chain fall off, push the car back, and then jack the car up so I can hook up all the stuff underneath. And it'll be a lot easier when the car is up higher than it is now. Okay, that's off. Get this out of the way. Now I can put the chain up here, get it out of the way. I'll just have to watch that hook as I push the car back, so it doesn't yank the distributor out or anything like that. Okay, I can go back a couple more feet maybe. In fact, that might be good right where it is. Yep, I'm gonna block it. Brick behind the tire. Got room to get around it. So it might be sitting right where it is for a while I do everything underneath I need to do. I'm going to say this is the end of day 9. Dan's Messy Garage, putting a 289 into a 73 Comet. It's kind of in there. Now I have to hook everything up.